Hey y'all! Well, back for another speaker review. Aperion Audio sent me a email saying, hey, we'd like for you to review a pair of our speakers. And so I looked through their lineup of something that would fit my use case, which is a fairly small room using a single-ended tube amp. And a few things that I look for is impedance, which I really like to see 8 ohms that doesn't dip below 4, and then fairly high efficiency, like 88 dBs and up. Seems to fit my use case. Plus, can't put real giant speakers, and this guy is kind of pushing the envelope of what will fit well in my space and on my place that I have for setting up my speakers and audio gear. And so looking through everything, these are 6 ohms, they are 88 dB efficient, and they have a claimed frequency response of 30 to 35K. And after listening to them, I don't doubt that. They have a really good bass response. And that's important to me because I also don't use a subwoofer. I like speakers that, go down to 40 hertz or below, maybe 50 if it rolls off smoothly and doesn't just fall off like a rock. And these seem to fit that case. They handle up to 300 watts, and I put maybe 4 in them. And so I'm using them at the low end of the spectrum, and I listen to a sound pressure level of below 85 dBs and above 80, kind of in that range. When I'm testing stuff, I measure it with a little Amazon dB meter just to make sure I'm in that ballpark when I'm comparing one speaker to another, to make sure I'm not just hearing one's louder so it sounds better kind of a thing. It's got a 1.1 ASR tweeter, whatever that is. Sorry, I'm not that fluent on what all these different tweeters. I know what a ribbon is and a dome, and I guess this is kind of a metal dome type tweeter. And then it's got an 8-inch Kevlar long throw woofer with rubber surround, so it pumps pretty good. It's got a really nice cabinet, and it's really solid. It's internally, you can tell it's braced well because it's really doesn't resonate. It's got rounded surfaces. It's got kind of the tapered sides. And here's a shot of the top of it. And then here's a picture of the back of it. Shows how narrow it is with a bass port in the upper portion of the back. And the finish on it is beautiful. These things weigh in at 28 pounds, so they're not, some super chintzy little light, thin cabinet kind of a design. And they're 17 inches high, 10.6 inches wide, and 13 inches deep. But the way they taper in the back, it helps that 13 inches deep from being a problem, at least in my house where I've got my speakers put, which is in this bay window area. And I know, we're not doing a anechoic chamber type thing. I'm putting this in a room where I listen to other speakers, and so I'm comparing it to other speakers put in this same kind of location because that's where I'm going to use them. If you've got a different use case, you've got them 4 feet out from the wall, you've got them hung from the ceiling, you've got a giant room, your experience with these are going to be very different. And this isn't a treated room, but it's also not a bare room that has a lot of reflections. There's a lot of soft material on the walls. There's, canvas paintings with no glass over them, which, in my opinion, would absorb some sound. And the floor's got a rug on it. There's a lot of furniture in the room that has no hard surfaces, upholstered furniture. And so it's a fairly, to me, neutral. At least it's not a bright room. And so that out of the way, let's talk about the features of the speaker. Like I said, It's got a nice frequency response range. It's also got a neat treble mod feature on the back where you can pull this little plug out and move it over a position, and it tamps down the high frequency response by 3 dBs. I didn't feel the need for that in my room, but you might, and that's kind of a nice thing to be able to do. And it's going to be more transparent than having like a knob like those JBL speakers do on a potentiometer. You're basically hard moving a jumper to just do one or the other. And so that's a really neat feature of it. So let's talk about the aesthetics. And I've got it sitting here next to a Klipsch RP600M because a lot of people know what these are, what they sound like, and what kind of speaker. And you can see physically they're a similar size. These are a little bigger, but anywhere you could put these, you could put these as far as fitting in a space. And especially, like I said, with a tapered back, it gives you some more options. They're a little taller, but they've got this rounded top. So when you compare like this edge to this edge, it's really close. So that kind of gives you a size thing. And these are sitting on some audio acoustic pucks, which I put under any speakers that I'm using, not only for sonic reasons, but since these were on loan to me, I'm trying to make sure that I don't scratch them or do anything, that would devalue them, since they were nice enough to send them to me. And so it helps keeps the bottom of the speakers from getting scratched. So you can see they're sitting up a little bit off the floor or off the table. So let's talk about like the appearance of these speakers. And I think that these speakers, to me, would come off better if you get the piano black versions. And let me see if I can turn this a little bit so you can kind of see the side of it. To me, this black composite, front piece, then with this really glossy wood tone sides, it just, I don't know. It has a real two-tone look, where the Klipsch speaker that is, let me set this grill down, that's it's a darker finish with the darker front. It doesn't like jump out as much as being like a different material or a different part of the speaker. And so if I was going to buy these, now seeing them in person, I mean, you can see it on the website. I don't know why I didn't think about this, because he asked me which color I would want. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be sending these back soon. Like I said, these were just on loan to do this review. And so I said, hey, send these, wood tone ones and let me see what they look like. Like I said, if I was buying these for myself, I would get the black finish rather than this kind of orange toned wood, which it's a really beautiful wood. And if it carried forward to the front and just had like the drivers with a smooth wood finish that the grills kind of snaps over, that would be a different story, kind of like those Quad S2s are made, but it's not made like that. So that's just kind of my feeling on the aesthetic. The other thing that I'm not a big fan of is the way it has this recessed area in here for the grill. Because when you take the grills off, which I usually run speakers with no grills, I found, at least to my ears, that there's always kind of a tempering of the very top end kind of sparkle from the tweeter when you put the grill in front of the speaker. And so I would run speakers like this with no grills, and they look like speakers with no grills. Other thing is, and I'm going to let you guys that are more speaker pros than me weigh in on this. I've seen a lot of speaker manufacturers and people talking in forums and videos talking how important this edge is to the sound of the speaker. And I can't remember the word, dispersion or distortion or something. When the sound wave rolls around this edge, that can be, if it's a sharp edge, that can be a problem or cause a change in the sound of the speaker. And this has got like a 1/2 inch lip all the way around where the face of the drivers actually are. Yeah, is that a bad thing, or is that, something that speaker manufacturers should be avoiding? Like I said, I've read a lot of people talking about how, especially like DIY speakers, they'll say to, get a router and roll this edge off. And this is like the opposite of that. And I don't know whether this is adding some directionality to the speaker or, again, I don't know enough about speaker design to comment, but this is a reality with this lip here. If the sound waves are trying to roll around this, it's got to go up and over this lip that's all the way around. And like I said, to me, like this, it looks like, that's a speaker without the grill on it. Probably people that are going to be using these speakers are going to be using them with the grill. And they are magnetic grills, which I like. But here's the other weird thing, and I hope you can see this in the video. It's got this bar here that goes across the grill. And this curved part here. And they aren't, I don't think, let me look again. I don't see anything on the back of these labeling them up and down. But if you put them on in this direction, it looks like this would come very close to the woofer, and that on, serious bass, that the speaker would hit this. But then when I put it on like this little bar is right at the bottom edge of the tweeter. And it seems like it would be blocking some of the high frequencies from kind of directionally going down, and might contribute to, the vertical axis frequency response being different. So I ran them with the grills off, and I listened to them the way they came. They came with the grills on, and then I kind of pulled the grill back and listened and put it back, and it definitely sounded like it had a spunkier top end, which I'm a big fan of. And so grills came off. The other thing is they're not easy grills to get off because of the way they're countersunk. They come with a little tool that goes in, and a little wire that hooks behind here that you can then pull and get the grill loose from. And so there's that too. They're not like the clip speakers where the grills just go boop boop, go on and off. They're kind of inset. And let me pop the grill on so you can see what they look like with the grill in place. So here they are with the grills, and I think they look nice with the grills on. They got, contrast between the grill and this composite front piece. Again, I think piano black, they'd be a really nice looking speaker. I'm not a fan of this two-tone kind of a thing going on with this, cherry finish, orange kind of wood tone stain, but it's like super glossy, like it looks like automotive clear finish. I mean, it's really nice, and I'm assuming the piano black is that glossy too. It's going to look really good. So let's get to the meat of this. What do they sound like? Again, I don't do those Kipple near field measurement things like Aaron's Audio Corner and Amir do. I know there's people online that have already done measurements of these things. We're not doing that. We're talking about what did it sound like to me. So first I'm going to compare it to the speaker that is, 1/5 of the price or 1/3 of the price of these. And these blow these speakers away. It's got so much more detail. The bass is obviously, I say obviously, it's got an 8-inch woofer, but I've been surprised with some 4 and 5-inch woofer things. I don't think that's exactly what's going on. But the tuning has really smooth, low frequency response. It's not boomy. It's almost, I hate using, food tasting terms, but it's got a really creamy feeling bass, especially compared to these. These got nice bass. This is like next level. and the highs are so much cleaner without being bright, and it's on the mellow side, probably more neutral than some of the speakers that I'm a huge fan of, but it's definitely a huge improvement over these. And obviously the construction quality, the look of this cabinet and everything is so much above what these clip speakers are. And seeing the inside, the crossover parts, way nicer stuff, all open core or air core inductors and all that stuff, which contributes to the great sound it has. And again, if you've got a hot room or a room that's got a lot of reflective surfaces in it, you can do this treble mod on it and pull it down that you can't do if these sound too bright. The vocals are really nice, especially the not really high soprano type vocals. Think like male vocals or females that are, not the super soprano kind of voices. So, compare it to the Fine Audio F500s. Now we're starting to get more in even playing field. I would say that these still have a little bit cleaner top end, maybe because of the separate tweeter and the way it's designed. It's got a little more kind of sparkly top end, and the detail seems the same through the mid-range, and this has got a little more powerful bass response. So out of those two, God, it's hard to say. I mean, the Fine Audio F500 has that coaxial driver, which is really good about the sonics not changing as you move around the room. This speaker is a little more directional, especially on the upper mids and top end, but it's still not, it's not like laser beam focused into the room, but it's definitely more so than the F500s. So the question that I'm sure some of you are here for, does this topple the Quad S2 as my favorite speaker? And as such, would I be keeping these? For my use, it doesn't. I know that there's use cases where that smaller driver in the S2 would have a difficult time pumping out enough sound pressure level in a larger room, or folks that listen at higher volume levels. But for my use case in my smaller room, which I'm trying to remember the measurements, it's not a tiny room, it's like 12 by 20, and it's got kind of a L extension off, and I don't listen at really high sound pressure levels. And so what the S2 brought to the table was a detail and transparency on the top end that this speaker just didn't have for me and the music I listen to. I listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to a lot of piano with music that has like really delicate cymbals. And I guess that's kind of the word that I would use for the S2, is it has a little more air and delicacy than this speaker does. But you can almost look at this speaker and see that it's not going to be a delicate speaker. And I mean, it does say these are hi-fi speakers, but on the box it says it's a home theater speaker. And I told the manufacturer, I was going to be reviewing these as hi-fi speakers, and I gave them a pretty long email about like why I'm picking this speaker, and they were like, great, that should work good for your use. And please don't take this as a negative review, because it's not at all. This is a really well made, really nice sounding speaker. And what I'm comparing it to, this Quad S2, is a speaker that I've gone through, half a dozen, 10 different driver speaker combination things to come up with something that finally fit my use case. And it's going to be hard for something, I believe, to improve on that. But for probably the majority of folks, this is going to be a really great speaker. Especially if you're doing home theater / hi-fi stuff. This is going to have this powerful bass that's not boomy, that's really going to fill the room with great sound. I will say, comparing this to what I heard out of that JBL, what is that, L82? This destroys that speaker. And so if you were even thinking about that JBL speaker might be what you're interested in, get a pair of these for half of what those JBLs sell for, and you're going to be in heaven. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed this little subjective review. Again, just because this isn't something that I'm like, OMG, how much will you sell me these for? You know, and I'm shipping them back, doesn't mean that they're not great speakers. So please don't take it that way. It's just for my use case, I think those little Quad S2s are a better fit. So if you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Thanks to all you Patreon supporters. Also, thank you to Aperion for, I hope I'm saying that right, for sending me this demo pair. I'm also going to be reviewing their super tweeter that they sent me. They've got several of them because I thought that would be a good thing to try and kind of get a feel for what that product's like. And that video should be coming out shortly. So until then, have a nice day.